A child sits at a kitchen table. Homework finished, room clean, dinner eaten without being asked. By every visible measure, a success. Now fast forward 20 years, that same person sits in a therapist's office, accomplished, respected, completely lost. "I've done everything right," they say, "so why does nothing feel like mine?" The grades were real, the achievements were real, the wisdom was never built, and the parents, who loved that child deeply, completely, never knew what they missed. Because what they missed wasn't visible. It happened in the small moments, the daily ones, the ones that don't look like anything at all. The problem. Every week, somewhere, a parent hears the same thing. From a teacher, a counselor, a coach. "Your child is bright, but something feels missing." The child follows instructions, but doesn't understand why. Accomplishes tasks, but seems lost without direction. Speaks confidently, but struggles when the answer isn't obvious. This isn't a school problem. Schools were never designed to build wisdom. They were designed to transfer information. Wisdom is built somewhere else. In the kitchen, at bedtime, in the car. In the moments parents don't think matter. They matter more than almost anything else. Here are the 10 daily habits that make the difference. Habit 1. Daily why conversations. A child knocks over a glass of juice. It spreads across the table, drips to the floor. Most parents react immediately. "Be more careful, go get a towel." And the child does. Obedient, efficient, problem solved. But watch what just happened inside that child's mind. No thought, no reflection, no understanding, just stimulus, command, response. Now watch a different parent in the same moment. They pause, just a second. What do you think happened there? The child looks confused, then thinks, "I was trying to reach too far." So what might you do differently next time? In that pause, something in the brain activates. Researchers in child development have found that when children explain their own reasoning, they build cognitive pathways that last into adulthood. Not the ability to follow rules, the ability to construct them. The dangerous part about always giving commands, it works perfectly in childhood. The child is easy to manage, cooperative, responsive. And then they turn 22, and no one is giving the commands anymore, and they realize, quietly, terrifyingly, they don't know how to think without them. One question a day. Why do you think that happened? That's not a conversation, that's the beginning of a mind. Habit 2. Small daily decisions. Here's something neuroscience confirms that most parents never hear. The part of the brain responsible for judgment, planning, and self-control is not fully formed at birth. It is built, slowly over years, through use, through deciding. A child who grows up making very few choices will reach adulthood with an underdeveloped ability to make them, not because they're weak, because no one practiced with them. Picture a 7-year-old who has never chosen her own clothes, never organized her own backpack, never solved a small disagreement on her own. Every morning someone decides for her, and every morning she learns the same lesson without knowing it. Someone else knows better. Wait for instructions. Let them choose between 2 options, not an open wardrobe. Let them organize their room, even imperfectly. Let them sit with a small problem before you solve it. At first, it seems harmless to just choose for them. It's faster, cleaner, less negotiation. But every small decision you make on their behalf is one more decision they never get to practice. And one day, they'll be 25, standing at a life crossroads, career, relationship, identity, and they'll freeze. And they won't know why. Habit 3. Teaching children to name their emotions. A 6-year-old is crying in the back seat of a car. She doesn't know why exactly. She just feels too much. Her mother, exhausted from a full day, says, "Stop crying, you're fine. There's nothing to cry about." She means it kindly. She wants her daughter to feel better. But here is what that child's nervous system registers in that moment. My feelings are not safe here. I must manage this alone. I must become smaller. That belief doesn't disappear. It calcifies, and it shows up in the adult who can't tell their partner what they need. The one who says, "I'm fine," until the day they're not. The one who describes themselves as emotionally closed off and has no idea when it started. It started in the back seat of a car, in 100 small moments just like it. Research in emotional intelligence is unambiguous. Naming an emotion reduces its intensity. Neurologically, putting a word to a feeling calms the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. So instead of "stop crying," try, "It looks like you're really overwhelmed right now. Can you tell me what's going on?" You're not creating a fragile child. You're creating a child who knows the difference between what they feel and who they are. That skill, quiet, invisible, built in small moments, is one of the strongest predictors of adult emotional health. Habit 4. Daily reflection. Most children move through their days like rushing water. School, homework, screen, sleep, repeat. Never pausing to ask, what did today actually teach me? And here is something most parents don't realize. Without reflection, experience doesn't become wisdom. It just becomes history. A child can live through 10,000 experiences and learn almost nothing from them, if no one ever taught them to look back. There's a term in psychology for the ability to think about your own thinking: metacognition. Children who develop it don't just process what happens to them, they study it. The practice is simple. At dinner, just before sleep. What was the hardest part of today? Is there anything you'd do differently? Asked once, it's a nice question. Asked every day for 10 years, it becomes the internal voice that guides them when no one else is in the room. The split. Something happens to certain children around age 8 or 9. It's quiet. No one announces it. They begin to split in two. There is the version that performs, that gets the grades, says the right things, earns the praise. And there is the version that exists privately, uncertain, overwhelmed, unsure if anyone would still approve if they could see inside. Most high-achieving children know this split intimately. They became experts at showing the right version, and they learned to manage the other one alone. Not because their parents didn't love them, because somewhere along the way, they learned, consciously or not, that the praised version was more accepted than the real one. Some children stop asking for help surprisingly early. Not because they're mature, because they learned nobody was really coming. Not for the messy parts, not for the uncertain parts, not for the parts that didn't perform. This is where the habits in this video matter most. Not to raise a smarter child, but to raise one who doesn't feel the need to split. Habit 5. Allowing struggle. A 9-year-old stands frozen at the classroom door. Homework missing, heart racing, already rehearsing the lie. His mother, who stayed up late finishing it for him, has no idea he's standing there. She thought she was helping. She was, in the moment. But here's what her son learned, quietly, over many moments just like it. When it gets hard, I wait. Someone will come. Psychologists call what she prevented a desirable difficulty. When a brain works hard to solve a problem, really works, uncomfortably, it doesn't just find the answer, it builds the circuitry to find answers. Every time a parent rescues too quickly, they interrupt that process. Not maliciously, lovingly. And that makes it harder to see. The goal isn't to watch your child suffer. It's to pause just long enough for them to discover they are more capable than they believed. That discovery, quiet, private, unexpected, is one of the most important things a child will ever experience. Because struggle does not mean failure, it means growth that cannot be borrowed from someone else. Habit 6. Teaching through stories. Rules tell children what to do. Stories show them who to become. There is a difference, and the brain knows it immediately. When a parent says, "Always be honest," the child nods. Processed, filed, forgotten by morning. When a parent says, "Let me tell you about a time I lied and what it cost me for years afterward," the child leans in. The brain shifts. This is biology, not philosophy. Stories activate multiple regions of the brain simultaneously: language, emotion, memory, sensory imagination. Rules sit in one place. They're easy to override. Stories spread through the mind like dye through water. They're much harder to forget. The most powerful stories a parent can share aren't from books or fables. They're the honest ones. The mistakes. The moments of genuine shame. The choices that looked right and quietly ruined something. A child who hears those stories doesn't just learn values, they learn that values are tested, that people fail, that the failure isn't the end of the story. That lesson, that particular lesson, cannot be taught any other way. Habit 7. Natural consequences. A child wastes the entire evening: screens, distraction, avoidance, homework left untouched. A rescuing parent either does the homework or delivers a long speech. Both feel responsible, neither teaches much. Here's the third option, and it's harder than it sounds. Do nothing. Let the morning happen. Let the child walk into class unprepared. Let them feel the specific discomfort of that moment. And then, without lectures, ask that evening, "What are you going to do differently tomorrow?" Research on learning confirms that consequences connected directly to actions create understanding that warnings never do. Because the lesson isn't, "My parent predicted this." The lesson is, "I experienced this. It was real. I understand it now." Not the same thing, not even close. The painful part for parents? This requires watching your child face something uncomfortable and choosing not to remove it. That requires a kind of discipline from the parent that is harder than any discipline directed at the child. Habit 8. Quiet thinking time. Modern childhood is relentlessly loud. There is almost always something filling the silence: a screen, a song, a notification, a game. And slowly, without anyone deciding this, children lose the ability to be alone with their own minds. Not because they're weak, because they were never given the practice. Children who are never given quiet don't become more stimulated. They become dependent on stimulation to feel okay, to feel normal, to feel anything at all. And that dependency, formed quietly in ordinary evenings, follows them into adulthood in ways they can't explain. The practice doesn't require silence retreats or meditation apps. 20 minutes of reading without background noise, time outside without a phone, a car ride with no music. In those moments, boredom arrives. Let it, because boredom for a child is not emptiness, it is the doorway to imagination. And imagination is where wisdom does some of its best work. Habit 9. Real responsibility. There is a quiet epidemic in how many children are raised today. They are encouraged, relentlessly, to achieve, and almost never taught to contribute. Achieve for yourself, your grades, your scores, your future. But wisdom isn't built in pursuit of personal achievement. It's built in learning to be useful, to something beyond yourself. A child who only receives, who only performs for their own advancement, grows up with a very small understanding of what they're for. Give children real responsibilities at home, not chores as punishment, contributions as membership. This family runs because everyone plays a part. When a child helps prepare a meal, solves a household problem, or cares for someone younger than them, something shifts in how they understand themselves, not as someone waiting to receive, as someone capable of giving. That shift, from "what do I get" to "what can I offer," is one of the quietest and most profound forms of wisdom a parent can build in a child. Habit 10. Demonstrating wisdom. Everything before this matters, and none of it matters as much as this. Children do not become what parents tell them to be. They become what they watch parents do. Neuroscience describes the mechanism. Mirror neurons, cells in the brain that fire both when we act and when we observe someone else act. Children absorb patterns silently, automatically, continuously. How a parent speaks when they're angry, how a parent handles being wrong, how a parent treats someone who has nothing to offer them, those moments are being recorded. Not consciously, not deliberately, but completely. And one day, when that child is in a hard conversation or standing at a moral crossroads, they will not remember a single rule their parent recited. They will act out the patterns they absorbed, before they even realize they're doing it. So the most important question, the hardest one, and the most honest, isn't about the child at all. Am I living in a way I would want my child to imitate? Not perfectly, not without failure, but with awareness, with honesty, with intention. That is the lesson that requires no teaching, because it is already being learned, every day, in ways you may not even see.